So I want you to imagine calling a locksmith during a freezing winter night.
Oh, the worst time.
Right. Because you were completely locked out of your house. So the locksmith arrives, and they are fully equipped, but their lock-picking tools have been built with these, like, incredibly strict, unyielding safety features.
Right. The manufacturer guardrails.
Yeah, to the point where they are physically blocked from picking your lock. The tool basically registers that breaking and entering is illegal, so it just shuts down.
Leaving you just standing there in the cold.
Exactly. The safety feature becomes the exact thing preventing you from resolving the actual emergency. Okay, let's unpack this because that bizarre scenario just played out in the highest tiers of the tech world, and it really sits at the center of the notes we are diving into today. Welcome to the Deep Dives, by the way. Our mission today is to figure out this intense, reignited debate between open and closed AI models.
Yeah, it's a massive debate right now.
We want to know which approach is actually more secure and, crucially, who is legally on the hook when things inevitably go wrong.
And that locksmith analogy is just a striking way to look at the situation with Hugging Face.
Yeah, Hugging Face. Let's talk about that.
So they operate as this huge central ecosystem for machine learning and AI development, and they recently experienced a security event.
A pretty serious one, right?
Yeah, and they needed to perform digital forensics, which basically means they had to parse through these massive, complex logs of potentially malicious code to figure out exactly how a system was compromised.
And I mean, when you are dealing with millions of lines of data, human eyes just aren't fast enough.
Not even close.
You absolutely need an AI to help you hunt for that needle in the digital haystack. But here is the ironic twist that sparked this whole recent debate. Hugging Face tried to use commercial proprietary AI models.
You mean the big closed box systems?
Right, the corporate ones. They tried to use them to analyze the malicious code, but the safety guardrails on those commercial models kicked in and actively refused to process the data.
That is wild.
The models essentially said, looking at bad code violates our safety protocols, so we won't help you investigate.
Wow. So Hugging Face had to pivot. They had to rely on an open-weight AI model just to get the forensic job done.
Because the open model actually let them look under the hood.
Exactly. The rigid safety guardrails of the commercial models completely blinded the investigators when they needed visibility the absolute most.
So ironic.
It really is. And that friction during a critical security event perfectly illustrates the current high-stakes standoff between two fundamentally different philosophies of AI development. You have the closed model fortress versus the open model ecosystem.
Right.
But we have to remember, the developers of proprietary closed systems, they don't build these barriers just to be difficult during an investigation. They defend this strict lockdown as a totally non-negotiable safety measure.
Well, we really need to explore the mechanics of that defense.
Right.
Because the closed model argument actually makes a lot of sense when you consider what an AI fundamentally is. It isn't
Right.
just a search engine, right?
No, not at all. It is a highly capable reasoning engine.
Right. So if you make the underlying weights and parameters of that engine freely downloadable, which is what an open weight model is, you aren't just giving people a fun tool. You are basically handing over the entire factory.
A factory that can be rapidly retooled by anyone.
Yeah.
Think about it like this. When you interact with a closed model, you are only communicating with an API. You type a prompt, the company's servers process it through their own safety filters, and they send you an answer back.
The company completely controls the environment.
Exactly. If you ask it to generate sophisticated malware or, bypass content restrictions, the safety layer intercepts that request and just shuts it down.
But with an open weight model,
The user downloads the actual neural network directly to their own local hardware.
it's like taking the engine out of the car and just putting it in your own garage. And once it is in your garage, the original manufacturer cannot stop you from stripping off all the safety features.
That is the core fear driving the closed model advocates. They argue that an open model allows bad actors to bypass the safety layer entirely through a process called fine-tuning.
Fine-tuning.
Yeah,
Right.
it allows someone to take a highly capable AI and actively train it to just ignore all ethical constraints.
Which is terrifying.
It is. From there, the bad actor can automate spear phishing campaigns at a terrifying speed or generate zero-day exploits.
Or deploy completely convincing misinformation at a massive scale.
Yes. To proponents of closed systems, restricting access to the model's weights is like placing highly sensitive, dangerous equipment inside a secure, heavily monitored laboratory rather than just leaving it out on a public sidewalk for anyone to grab.
Okay, the secure lab sounds super responsible on paper. But I think we have to challenge this secure lab mentality just based on the history of technology.
I mean,
Well, if the lab doors are completely locked, and the windows are blacked out, and only a handful of corporate developers know what is actually going on inside, aren't we just blindly taking the corporation's word that their equipment is safe?
that is a very fair point.
I mean, history is just littered with tech giants claiming their proprietary systems were impenetrable, right up until the exact moment a massive data breach proved they were completely compromised.
Security by obscurity.
Exactly. Black box security is often just security by obscurity. Doesn't history show that closed doors can hide some pretty fatal flaws?
Yeah, and that skepticism is exactly what fuels the open model argument. The advocates for OpenAI fundamentally believe that trustworthiness requires community scrutiny, not corporate promises.
Which makes sense.
They draw a very specific structural parallel to a field where security is absolute, and that's cryptography.
Oh, like encryption.
Right. The cryptographic protocols securing everything from your mobile banking to national defense networks, those algorithms are not kept secret.
No, they are completely public. Anyone can look at the math behind, like AES 256 encryption.
What's fascinating here is the actual mechanism of that security. Cryptography isn't secure because it's hidden. It is secure specifically because thousands of the smartest security experts globally have examined those public algorithms. They've actively attacked them.
Run every conceivable mathematical stress test against them.
Exactly, and they failed to break them. The open advocates argue that AI must follow this exact same path. If the code and the weights are open, a massive global community of researchers can discover vulnerabilities and correct them rapidly.
Long before a criminal exploits them.
Right. If researchers can't inspect the model, they cannot independently verify if there are hidden biases or security weaknesses.
Or unsafe behavior, hallucination tendencies.
Privacy leaks, undocumented capabilities, the list goes on. You just can't verify it in a closed system.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I love an analogy. An open model is basically like a restaurant kitchen with glass walls.
Okay, I like that.
Right. You can instantly see that there's a rat running across the counter.
Oh.
But a closed model is a kitchen hidden behind a heavy steel door where the waiter just kind of smiles and promises you everything is perfectly clean back there.
The glass kitchen creates vital visibility, but the cryptography analogy has a mechanical flaw when you apply it to artificial intelligence.
Wait, really?
How so?
Well, cryptography is based on deterministic mathematics. If you find a flaw, you can patch the math. AI models, however, are probabilistic.
Meaning they're made of billions of interconnected weights and parameters.
Exactly. Finding a vulnerability or an unsafe behavior in an AI model isn't like finding a broken equation. It is like trying to untangle a billion-piece spiderweb. You can't just change one single line of code to fix an AI without potentially breaking 50 other things.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the complexity makes it a different beast entirely. And I actually have to push back on the open argument regarding that transparency, too.
Okay, what's your pushback? Well, wait. If the exact recipe and architecture of the AI are totally public, what stops a malicious actor from using it to create poison?
That's the fear.
Right. They don't just have a tool. They have the map to find the absolute most efficient way to bypass whatever security remains. If the glass kitchen shows you exactly how the chef prepares the meal, it also shows a bad actor the perfect moment to slip in the poison.
And there we hit the ultimate paradox of this whole debate. Transparency creates the accountability we absolutely need to ensure these systems are safe. But that exact same transparency systematically lowers the barrier for misuse.
So both systems have massive flaws.
Both the open and closed models carry inherent security paradoxes that the engineering community currently just cannot resolve.
So if I'm tracking this, the closed models demand blind trust and can actively hinder vital security research, which is exactly what Hugging Face experienced.
Yep.
But the open models provide accountability, while basically handing a loaded, programmable weapon to anyone with a server.
That sums it up.
If the engineers and developers are completely deadlocked by these security paradoxes, how do we actually move forward?
We shift the lens. We move from engineering to governance.
Governance, okay.
Because the technical paradoxes are unresolvable right now, the fundamental question changes. It is no longer just about which system is inherently safer.
It's about accountability.
Yes. It is about how the development of AI is legally governed, and critically, who is financially and legally held accountable when the system inevitably goes rogue or fails. The regulatory landscape is actively stepping in to force the issue.
So the lawyers are taking over where the engineers stalled out.
Precisely. And this is where we need to look at a specific, highly influential framework detailed in our notes. The DGPSI AI model.
It's a mouthful.
I know, but it was created by the Foundation of Data Protection Professionals in India, or the FDPPI. They built this framework specifically to enforce compliance with India's massive new privacy law, the DPDPA 2023.
The Digital Personal Data Protection Act. So it's a major national regulatory framework trying to pin down the moving target of AI. How does this playbook actually force accountability mechanically? Like, what is the lever they are pulling here?
The primary lever is found on page 20 of the framework, which mandates a formal explainability statement from the AI developer.
Explainability statement.
Yeah, and this is not just the simple terms and conditions checkbox that you scroll past. It requires the developer to comprehensively document the internal mechanics and the provenance of the AI.
They had to show their work.
Exactly. The framework demands answers to an exhaustive list of questions, like who approved the model for deployment? What specific data sets were used for training? Was that data legally obtained?
Oh, man. Proving the data was legally obtained is a massive hurdle right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we are seeing lawsuits globally regarding AI companies scraping copyrighted material, articles and proprietary code from the internet to train their models without permission.
It's a huge legal mess.
Forcing a company to legally certify their data provenance. That could halt some of these massive models in their tracks.
And the requirements dig even deeper into the operational mechanics. Developers must explain how personal data is shielded within the probabilistic weights of the model.
Good luck with that.
Right. They have to document the exact adversarial testing that was conducted prior to launch. They must list the known limitations of the AI, detail who is actively monitoring its performance post-deployment, and define exactly what happens when the model behaves unexpectedly.
That is incredibly thorough.
And the capstone requirement, can an independent auditor actively verify all of this compliance?
Wow. That list of questions is a complete paradigm shift. It essentially forces the developer out from behind that black box defense we talked about and makes them take real ownership of the AI's internal logic.
Exactly.
But I'm curious, how does this specific legal mechanism impact, you, the listener?
Yeah.
Let's say your company is just subscribing to an AI service to streamline your workflow. Why should you care?
This raises an important question because the DPDPA 2023 flexes its legal muscle by redefining the end user.
Redefining the user.
Yes. Under this act, the business or individual deploying the software is designated as a data fiduciary.
A data fiduciary.
And that title carries an immense legal duty of care. You cannot just blindly integrate an AI tool into your business anymore. You have a strict legal obligation to demand that explainability statement from the developer.
But wait.
But the critical legal pivot happens when you use a closed system.
Right, because if it's a closed system, you can't verify it yourself. You don't have access to the weights or the code.
Exactly. If the AI's architecture is proprietary and closed, the user is physically incapable of verifying the safety mechanics.
So what happens?
Therefore, the framework dictates that the developer legally assumes the responsibility of a joint data fiduciary. They share the legal liability with the user.
Okay, let's ground this in a real-world scenario so we can really grasp this. Let's say a mid-sized business uses a closed-box AI tool to, screen resumes for hiring or to approve microloans.
Good examples.
And that AI ends up hallucinating, or it makes a series of terribly biased decisions that actually harm consumers. So the business gets sued. Under this framework, the business can't just throw their hands up, point fingers at the tech giant who sold them the API and say, hey, we didn't know how it worked, blame the vendor.
No. The we didn't know defense is completely nullified. The responsibility is intertwined.
It kind of reminds me of buying a used car for your delivery fleet.
Okay, how so?
If the brakes fail and cause a crash, obviously the dealer who sold the faulty vehicle is liable. But as the business owner who put that car on the road, if you never bothered to ask for the inspection report or demand proof that the brakes were tested, you are also liable.
That's a great way to look at it.
You share the blame for deploying a dangerous asset without performing any due diligence.
That shared liability is the exact mechanism of the joint data fiduciary. Both the developer who obscured the system and the user who deployed it without extracting the mandatory explainability answers, they are both legally on the hook.
Man, that is a terrifying prospect for the thousands of companies currently rushing to integrate generative AI into their customer service portals and internal databases.
And the framework amplifies that caution even further, because even if a company asks all the right questions and the developer provides a pristine explainability statement, AI models are still probabilistic.
We can still go rogue.
Exactly, they can still output unpredictable emergent behavior. Because of this inherent volatility, the FDPPI framework mandates that all AI usage must be treated as a significant risk.
Significant risk, so no exceptions.
There are absolutely no low-risk carve-outs for seemingly simple AI tools. Every single deployment is a significant risk.
Okay, so if every AI deployment is a significant risk, then the user is elevated to a significant data fiduciary, which I imagine triggers even heavier compliance audits and stricter legal exposure.
Oh, absolutely.
So we have developers terrified of liability because their closed systems are black boxes. We have users terrified of becoming significant data fiduciaries, and a general acknowledgement that AI is still totally unpredictable.
It's a gridlock.
Right. Meanwhile, the original open versus closed debate is gridlocked by intellectual property rights. Proprietary developers will not open their weights because that is their billion-dollar secret sauce.
So what do we do?
Yeah, what is the practical, immediate fix while we wait for IP laws to catch up?
The notes point to a very specific interim solution being urged by the FDPPI to break this gridlock. They are calling for academic institutions to partner up and establish dedicated AI tools audit laboratories.
Audit labs, moving the auditing process out of the corporate boardrooms and into university labs.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, these academic labs provide a highly controlled, truly neutral ground. A closed model developer can allow an academic audit lab to access their underlying weights and source code securely under strict non-disclosure agreements.
Oh, so the IP stays protected.
Exactly. The university researchers can then perform rigorous third-party auditing, adversarial prompting, red teaming, intentionally trying to break the model's guardrails in a completely safe sandbox environment.
So they act as the independent verifier required by the explainability statement, but without forcing the tech company to just publish its proprietary source code to the entire internet.
That's a win-win.
And this brings us full circle to the very beginning of our deep dive. This is exactly what Hugging Face needed during their security crisis.
Yes.
If these independent audit labs were fully functioning as neutral territory, they could provide the forensic ground required to investigate a cyber attack. The lab could bypass the commercial guardrails to read the malicious logs without compromising the AI company's intellectual property or exposing a dangerous open model to the public.
It creates a regulated environment for transparency. You get the strict accountability and deep visibility demanded by the open model advocates, while still maintaining the controlled access required by the closed model developers.
It bridges the gap between commercial secrecy and public safety.
Exactly. It's a good faith attempt to mitigate AI risks right now.
So what does this all mean? We have covered a massive amount of technical and legal ground today. From the quirks of open-weight forensics and the cryptography paradox to the dense legal mandates of the DPDPA 2023.
There's a lot to process.
It is. But the most crucial takeaway from all these sources is directed right at you, the listener. Whether you are a developer building these models, a casual user experimenting with prompts, or a business owner integrating AI to boost productivity, the landscape of plausible deniability has vanished.
It's gone.
You are stepping into the role of a data fiduciary.
The era of treating AI as a magical, foolproof utility is just over. It is now legally recognized as a complex, high-risk infrastructure.
You can no longer afford to be a passive consumer of AI. You have to actively ask the hard questions about the tools you use, like where did the training data come from? What adversarial testing was performed?
Who approved it?
Right. And most importantly, when the system eventually makes a critical error, who is left holding the bag? Because if you don't ask those questions, the shifting legal frameworks dictate that you are the one on the hook.
Accountability requires intense, vigilant governance, and that responsibility is now distributed to literally everyone touching the technology.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one final, pretty provocative thought for you to mull over that builds on everything we have just explored.
Oh, lay it on me.
Right now, this entire debate, the open weights, the closed APIs, the academic audit labs, and the legal explainability statements, it all relies on one massive underlying assumption.
Which is?
That human experts can actually read and audit the code. The assumption is that if we get the lawyers and the engineers in the same room, a human can look at the AI's neural network and definitively understand why it made a specific decision.
That human auditors can translate the recipe.
Exactly. But AI models are evolving at an unprecedented rate. We are already seeing models that can write, optimize, and iterate on their own code, creating neural pathways that humans didn't explicitly program.
It's moving so fast.
So what happens in the very near future? Will the concepts of open or closed even matter if an open source model's internal logic is completely incomprehensible to the human mind?
That is a chilling thought.
What happens to our legal frameworks and our data fiduciaries when the AI's internal logic evolves into a digital language that human auditors can no longer even translate?
It challenges the very foundation of accountability because, I mean, you cannot govern a system you can no longer comprehend.
If the locksmith's tools are locked behind a door that we don't even have the vocabulary to describe, much less open well, those forensic investigations are going to require a whole new kind of key. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.